Hello, Garland Nixon here, hanging out with Matt Weinglass. We got stuff to talk about in Hollywood, Big Pharma, all kinds of stuff. Let's talk. Hello, Garland Nixon here. We're hanging out with the one and only Matt Weinglass, and we're going to have a good time. And as always, we're going to talk about scary stuff, horrifying stuff. We're going to talk about the evils of the evil people who are doing evil things. And hopefully all of us together will learn something. Matt, welcome back.
Thanks for having me back, Garland. Always appreciate our conversations. Very insightful, very thought-provoking. I learn a lot coming on with you as well.
So do I. That's what I love about my guests. Everybody, it's kind of, we all learn together. We're intellectually curious.
Yep.
That's what I would say about the kind of people that watch this channel, the kind of people that are into social media and stuff. I mean, into not social media, into new media, things of that. I'm going to go away from alternative. This is the new media.
Yeah, that's right.
This is actual. Yeah. There's some level of intellectual curiosity. No more of these gatekeepers for the ruling elite. All right, let's get going. Let's start here with this. The voice of Hind Rajab. Let's update everybody. There may be people who don't know about the film, what's happened with the film, people who know nothing about that. Even start off with what happened with Hind Rajab, whatever, and then the film from the very beginning. Fill everybody in.
Okay, yeah, definitely. And so this is one story, as we know, of many, many, many stories. If you're a filmmaker and you're like, if I have the ability to tell any story, get an audience, in a room and say, what story can we get their attention about what's been going on in Palestine since October 7th? I mean, obviously there's stories upon stories well before that, back to 1948. But if you're going to do one story, this was the one that was chosen because this is about a 6-year-old girl. About a year ago, well, actually, it was January of 2024 of last year. Hind Rajab was a 6-year-old girl who was actually shot at 355 times by the IDF. And the situation goes like this. She was actually trying to escape with her family in a car. And in the car ride, they were attacked for the first time. This is what we now know is called a double tap. So this is what happens. They do the first attack and they kill everybody in the car. She's the only one remaining alive. And amongst her dead family members, she has the ability to she manages to call for help. And she's calling this Palestinian medical team that takes a couple hours to figure out how do we get out there and save this girl. And they kept her on the phone. The phone calls were saved. The phone calls themselves are used in this film, which was a very interesting choice. And I have to say, I applaud this choice from the filmmakers to put the actual phone call in the movie. This is not a documentary. It is a scripted film with actors, but they didn't cast Hind Rajab. They used her actual likeness from real, like I said, the real voice recordings of the 911 calls. And these calls are what really pierced the ears of the audience when this film was screened. It premiered last week at the Venice Film Festival, and it basically broke records for the whole festival with the standing ovation, which lasted 23 minutes. And I know it's an unfortunate end of the story, but just hearing her voice on those phone calls and the help trying to get to her when the medical team showed up, they were all assaulted and murdered, everyone there. So the medical team was killed by IDF. Unfortunately, Hind Rajab was eventually killed as well. And what we call a double tap, when the IDF does a second assault in the exact same location, which is something we've seen time and time again. So how is this film able to be made and to be presented? That's actually the question. We're looking into that part, and I can get into that part soon.
Sure.
Well, Garland.
Wow. Do you know more about it?
Yes. So
okay, just keep going.
Okay. So here's what happens. So you make a film like this. How do you get it seen by people? So what the filmmakers decided to do was recruit some more notable names, and this is what when we talk about executive producing, the executive producer can be somebody on a film that is bringing money or any sort of resources. It also could be someone that's bringing their credibility, and we see that happen a lot. And in this case, the filmmakers were able to get Jonathan Glazer. He is a Jewish filmmaker, director, producer who actually won Best Foreign Film last year and is known for his Oscar speech that he was he was criticized for saying, hey, I made a movie about the Holocaust. I'd like you guys to understand that we can attribute what I did in this film to what's happening right now in Gaza. And obviously Hollywood was not down for that when he did that. So he was the perfect person to recruit on this film. After Jonathan Glazer was recruited on this film, they were able to get 3 more EPs attached, which really went a long way to having Brad Pitt, Joaquin Phoenix, and Rooney Mara to all come on and show their support. Joaquin Phoenix and Rooney Mara actually attended the premiere in Venice and were there for this amazing standing ovation that happened after. But again, having these names on as executive producers says something to the Hollywood machine, the Zionist-controlled Hollywood machine. We haven't really seen anything like this. At the end of the festival, the film did place I guess it was the second prize of the festival, which I guess the audience wanted. People were saying it should have won the top prize. It did get the second prize, which is something to be said. Now, currently, it is touring around all the other festivals. It's in Toronto right now at the Toronto Film Festival, trying to get some attention there as well. So this film we haven't seen anything quite this at this level, having this type of name, putting their names on it and saying something against the Hollywood machine. These are people, Brad Pitt specifically, who have been part of Israel-funded movies in the past. It's quite a turn to take someone even just like Brad Pitt and say, hey, I'm going to attach myself to this film. This film needs to be seen by as many people as possible because we have to get this message out and tell these stories. And that's the responsibility of filmmakers. And it should always be the responsibility of filmmakers to tell human stories, honest stories, get messages, get this information out to people the best way you can. And you're in an entertainment arena, but you're giving people stuff that they can sit with, utilize, and maybe change their opinion and kind of evolve how they think of the world and our place in it.
One of my favorite movies, I've got a lot of favorite movies, but I love the movie World War Z, but it was loaded with Israeli propaganda. People forget there was zombie attack. And where did he go to find out the country that was doing everything right? Israel. And from then on, who is his co-star? A heroic female member of the IDF.
Of course. Yeah. The tides are changing now. Look, there's a whole list of films like World War Z, and I remember seeing World War Z and not having any indication to myself even that was actually propaganda this whole time. We didn't know that. Now we're seeing it. We're going back to films. There's a ton of films that follow the same pattern, right? I mean, you can go all the way back to 1948. You can go right back to the initial films that started putting this propaganda into our lexicon, into how Americans look at the world and our place in it and our relationship with Israel, and how you look at Muslims and people of brown skin they just aren't as human, and they're always cast as the bad guys. We've talked about this, but I think that there's people that really, you should go back and look at some of these films for a second time. Go back and look at Ben-Hur. Go back and look at Executive Decision. Go back and look at Munich. Go back and look at even Schindler's List. At the end of Schindler's List, there is a message of what do we do now with these the Jews that survived the concentration camp. They have nowhere to go. Nobody wants them, and then it kind of sets up the Nakba. It sets up the next stage, and you can see where they're headed to next, which is this land that's just sitting there, right? We're all told this land is just sitting there waiting to be given to the chosen ones. That's the message at the end of Schindler's List. By the way, so people go back and check that out.
How about this? At the end of Schindler's List, they were laying flowers at the graves of these people who had died in the Holocaust. And what was it, in East Jerusalem or the West Bank or something? They were in occupied territory in Israel, laying flowers at the graves of these people. Again, well, they have every right to be here. This is their land. And because of the Holocaust, that's why the Jews are here. So there's always all of these movies, somewhere in there, they found a way to. So what else is? What do you think? Let me ask you this. So what do you think that tells us about what's happening in Hollywood, in your opinion?
So we're in a different time now. If you even just remember a few years ago, Garland, there were these named celebrities, people like, I'll just throw one out, like Susan Sarandon. She was punished by CIA to go out and be at a Free Palestine march and to speak about Palestinian rights, as if that's some thing that you need to be taught a lesson of. And she was made an example of. And we see examples of people being made. The thing that's happening different now is you're seeing a collection of people coming together where they kind of get each other's backs. And this is how real movements occur, is you have to draw numbers of people together and fight for the same thing, which is human rights and just the rights of people. And this is the thing, that they cannot punish everyone. We're seeing kind of a shift there. Now, that doesn't mean there isn't pushback. There's certainly going to be clamping down on this. There's pushback in these festivals right now. We actually, I mentioned the Toronto Film Festival. This film is there right now, going up against another propaganda piece by Israel. This is, I'm not, so this is not they're not coasting to the finish line here. So just so people know, right now, there's a movie that also hit. It's in Toronto right now. It's called The Road Between Us: The Ultimate Rescue. I kid you not. It is about the October 7th massacre, told from the point of view of a IDF hero and what they were able to do and save lives on the day that the terrorists attacked for no reason, because it was unprovoked. And they just hate Jews. That's what the movie is. And you have people like Amy Schumer, people like Deborah Messing putting their names on that film. So there is a war going on in Hollywood right now. Make no mistake about it. But the difference is we have people coming together on the side of Palestine, on the side of humanity, and they're not going to be able to take them all out at the same time. And that is the good news happening here.
I understand there's a letter to boycott Israel. What do we know about this?
Yes. Now, this is a huge deal, because like we're talking about all of these films throughout, I could say since 1948, film after film after film, that's not just signed off by the CIA and Mossad in Israel. They are funded and sponsored by the Israeli government. So when these people come together, this is what it is. It's a signed, it's an open letter. It's signed by over 1,500 industry professionals. We found out about this yesterday. It actually, we thought it was only 1,200. It grew to 1,500. It's probably more now. But Mark Ruffalo is one of the leads of kind of pushing this. You have people, others also involved on the letter as well. But all industry professionals. And what they're saying in this letter, it's up to 1,800 now. This is great news. So what they're saying is they're vowing to boycott, as you see in the article here, they're vowing to boycott Israel-funded films, Israel-backed films, which means any institution that is part of, any company that is part of making that film. And you guys know a lot of companies get involved with, especially these major films in Hollywood. And so if any of them are involved with the production or the distribution of a film, these Hollywood professionals, actors and crew members are saying, we will not participate. We will not take the job. And that is huge, because so many films are influenced and backed and funded by Israeli, associated companies, specifically associated with the Israeli government. Time and time again, this happens. So this is a big, big deal. They're going to have to make these adjustments. And they're saying in the letter, and you guys can see this, that they're saying in the letter that we will, if you stop funding anything to do with Israel and genocide, then we will reconsider. So the companies themselves have the choice. If you want Mark Ruffalo in your film, then you better not have any of these companies associated with that film, or those companies need to change where their money is going to and where it's coming from.
Wow. Yeah, I'm seeing that. That's something. Film workers pledge to end complicity. We must do everything to address the complicity and the unrelenting horror. Let me look over it. We answer the call of Palestinian filmmakers who have urged the national film industry to refuse silence, racism, and dehumanization. We pledge not to screen films appear at or otherwise work with Israeli film institutions, including festivals, cinemas, broadcasters, production companies that are implicated in genocide. Examples of complicity include whitewashing or justifying genocide and apartheid, and or partnering with the government committing them. Answers to frequent questions about this pledge can be found here. Then you click on it, it says page not found. But whatever. Who knows? You know, it wouldn't surprise me if like Google didn't kill the link. You know,
I mean, they're absolutely going to have pushback doing that. Now, this question came up, and I don't know the answer to this one, Garland. Maybe you can help me out with this. Why hasn't these name actors and executive producers from Voice of Hind Rajab signed on to this letter? We have not seen Brad Pitt, Joaquin Phoenix, Rooney Mara, or Jonathan Glazer. Their names have not appeared on this. I hope they're on their way. I don't know why, but it does make me a little unsettled by maybe the capitalist opportunity of, hey, we have an opportunity to make a few dollars from this film and get the message out in a way that is acceptable because it's one girl's story. This doesn't happen every day. Israel only did this was only a fluke story. So I get that's the part of me thinking, oh, was anything even accomplished? Why won't these guys? They should be the first ones on this letter. So that's I am concerned about that part at this point.
I think you're right. Wasn't there another documentary made where the guy just went out and interviewed like settlers? Do you remember the name of that?
Yes, it's called The Settlers, and it was the BBC. It was a journalist from the BBC that made the film. BBC allowed it to be on their. I don't think it aired on their BBC 1, 2, or 3, but it was on their website or something. It was available, and then all of a sudden it wasn't. They changed their mind. They got a lot of pushback. Obviously, BBC, they're tied to. They have to support, Israel to it. Obviously, so. I guess they had to change their mind about it because it was told. One more story for perspective, Garland, because I mentioned Susan Sarandon. That was a recent incident where CIA fired her for being at a Palestinian protest. Before that, we try to look at who else has spoken up, and we're talking about well before October 7th. Was there anyone in Hollywood that did anything like this, even close? And there was, and I think one of the first examples, and people need to look this up, was incredible actress Vanessa Redgrave, who won Best Supporting Actress in 1978 for the 50th Academy Awards, and that time the Best Supporting Actress was the first award given out. I think now it's the Best Supporting Actors, the first one, but back then it was the actress. So she's the first speech she wins the award for a film she did with Jane Fonda, and they were really close at the time. And so she gets up. Jane Fonda was also nominated for Best Actress. She lost, but Vanessa wins, right? So she gets up on the stage, congratulates everyone, and then she goes on to talk about what she was up there to do, which was call out the Zionist control of Hollywood. And the reason she did it, and she had to do it, was because she made a documentary that same year called The Palestinian. She went to Palestine. She interviewed people. She looked at what was going on, and then she wanted to share this film. And there was a boycott of this film. She was harassed. She was bullied. She was taunted. She was given death threats. And this is leading up to the Academy Awards, where she's getting honored for another performance. And she says, "Look, I'm going to get up and call this out." She called these people that were coming after her Zionist hoodlums, and the whole room just started booing her. What happened to her afterwards was she got her Academy Award, and she spent the rest of the night sitting at a table by herself at the after party with her 2 security guards. Nobody would talk to her. An Academy Award winner, nobody would talk to her, including her friend and co-star Jane Fonda, who we would think someone like Jane Fonda would be on the side of the people. No, she went on record later and said that she thought that Vanessa was insane and that she was anti-Semitic. And she goes out to occupied Palestine and gives a speech about how horrible anti-Semitism is in Hollywood. So that's the kind of backing she did not have. And I just wanted to put that out there because that's where we came from. Here we are now. But it takes those courageous moments like a Vanessa Redgrave and a Susan Sarandon to get to where we are now. But I want people to know this has been going on for years. This didn't just start on October the 8th. This has been going on for years.
Yeah, and what's happening now is there's an interesting. I'm just going to tell people, if you get a chance, here's an interesting article that I would advise people. It's over at the Greenville Post, and it's called "How Jewish Identity is Going Down with Israel." And the reason I think it's an interesting article, you may or may not agree with some things in it. You may think it's a bit harsh. You may think it's whatever, but I'll put it like this. What they're saying is something that I've been saying for a while, and that is what's going on now is very bad for Judaism worldwide.
Hmm.
And that Judaism, that I would put it like this. Zionism to me is a pseudo-Jewish European construct that uses Jewish people, and that a lot of Jewish people in the West have been brainwashed into believing, okay, this is the thing for you, this is what you ought to go. But ultimately, it's deadly for Judaism, deadly. But the Zionists actually welcome anti-Semitism. That's what Israel fuels Israel. But the people, the Jewish people, the identity is going to hell, and that people around the world now that were like, okay, Judaism is just is a religion and I respect it or whatever. You have people now who are furious at Judaism because the governments, because the empires that go around the world murdering everybody and stealing everything have been able to inextricably link the imperialists and the colonizers and the genociders and the pirates and the thieves. They've been able to link their savage barbaric deeds inextricably, not just to Zionism, but through Zionism to Judaism. And so all of the Max Blumenthal's and the all of the Aaron Mate's and the Medea Benjamins and all of these Jewish people who are out here that are fighting this. They're the ones, their identity is going to suffer horribly when they see Judaism, they will see Zionism, they will see the barbarity of imperialism, the barbarity of these warmongering states. And this is an interesting article, I think, and I think people should read it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'd like to check it out myself. Garland, the people you're mentioning, this is, I'll go on glasses half full here and say, having a Max Blumenthal, having Aaron Mate, having Norm Finkelstein, having Katie House, having these voices out there is the thing that's going to be the solution to what you called out very accurately. Zionism needs anti-Semitism. They feel it, they create it. So the best thing we can do on our side for humanity is align with people that have the courage, the Jewish people that have the courage to call it out and call foul and say, no, my Judaism is not represented by your Zionist psychopath mindset, which is what you choose to do. Zionism is not it's not a race. It's not. It's
atheism. It's actually, they're atheists. The Zionists, for the most part, the people that created it, that push it. Come on, Netanyahu does not practice Judaism. They're a bunch of Zionists, and then they get the settlers who are just completely insane. The settlers are effectively ISIS, which are tools of the West. They're effectively the Banderites in Ukraine, which are tools of the West, and the Ben Gavirs. They're all the same. If you look at ISIS that they put in charge of Syria, if you look at the Banderites that they put in charge of Ukraine, if you look at the Ben Gavirs, the Smotrich, and the radical settlers that they put, they're all the same murderous, supremacist, lunatic savages.
Yeah. And so I think we have to continue to double down on this and separate these two things, because it's so important that we do. Is people get confused about it. They think it's the same thing. No, Zionism by the way, it's a choice. You choose to wake up in the morning and be a psychopath that thinks that there's this superiority of a particular race of people and everybody else is scum on the bottom of the chute. That's a choice. You make that choice every morning. You can choose the opposite. You can wake up tomorrow and say, you know what? I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to start looking at people as equal and everybody having the same value. I'm going to start doing that. So you can choose that. But until you do, we will continue to double down and be we're not going to mince words here. We're going to say exactly what it is. It is psychopath behavior. It is sociopathic behavior, and it needs to be stopped. And we're not going to apologize for that.
Absolutely. 100%. Let's next talk about what the heck's happening in Congress. You have, look, and you know, people get on me for this. I can nuance things, I can compartmentalize things. There's plenty for me to complain about RFK Jr. about, and there's areas where I certainly go after him. You know what I mean? Now, I think we need a discussion about things like mRNA vaccines, right? We need a discussion about these things. And it has to be where you got people who say they're the greatest things ever. Like, for instance, I don't know, you know, Bernie Sanders and the Greg Palast of the world, a guy who I knew used to be a very good friend of mine, right? People who say, look, mRNA vaccines are the best and they're going to save our lives. You know what I say? I don't dislike you for saying that. You got the right to take that position if that's what you, not mad at you, but you should also say, the guy who says, I think they're the worst thing ever, you know what I say? Let's do all the scientific research we can. Let's check with everybody who's had one and all do the numbers and see what they've done and see what they haven't. Let's do take the guy like me who's skeptical, very skeptical of everything Big Pharma does. Take the guy who says Big Pharma is wonderful and they're looking out for us. Take the guy who says everything they do is wrong. Take all of us. I'm just skeptical of everything and say, let's get some empirical evidence and data and see what we come up with. Unfortunately, now the great Bernie Sanders, the man who's standing up against the man, is standing there now, and all of these other people are screaming in Congress saying, we can't possibly look into anything that Big Pharma is doing, and you're killing us and destroying everything by asking questions that need not be asked. Matt Weinglass, Maha, RFK Jr., Big Pharma, Congress, put it all together.
This is complicated stuff, but it shouldn't be complicated, but they make it this way. They keep people in their camps. They keep people afraid, going at each other. Bernie Sanders, make no mistake about it, he is a tool of the establishment. He's waiting by the phone for the next call to be the attack dog to go after people like RFK Jr., specifically RFK Jr. The whole thing is kind of set up. And I try to figure out, is RFK Jr. prepared for these moments? It feels like he's being bamboozled when he goes in. So last week he does go in here. Again, it felt like we're right back to these Senate confirmation hearings, right? It was like, didn't we already go through this? And you have Bernie and Liz Warren ready to attack him. He was ready with a few good talking points. He was able to very articulately call them both out, specifically Liz Warren, on the exact money she takes from pharma. But then Bernie sets up RFK for a kill that he should have taken. He really set him up, and he did not take the opportunity. Bernie says, are you sitting here saying, are you saying that everyone's corrupt? That every one of us is corrupt except you? And he should have, what RFK should have said is, yes, Bernie, that's exactly what I'm saying. Because we're not talking about Israel. That's a different topic. But as far as pharma goes, yeah, that's what I'm saying. And then I would have, if I was RFK Jr., I would have doubled down on Bernie and said, and what happened to you, Bernie? What happened to your movement? What happened to taking on Big Pharma? Why are you sitting here protecting the thing that your entire Fight the Oligarchy is all about? It's all about fighting corruption, this revolving door situation, this scenario where everybody is protected and there's no consequences. That was the whole point. You switched sides. What's the matter with you? But he wasn't ready for that, and I don't fully understand why he's not preparing for those answers. There's another one I should say he also dropped the ball on when Bernie asked him, "Who are your sources for your information? Which institutions?" So Bernie asked him, "What are the institutions?" And what he should have said was, he could have said any of these. He could have said any of these studies. We know about the Cleveland Clinic study. We know about this one that's been talking about right now that Senator Ron Johnson is courageously talking about right now in his hearing from yesterday, the Henry Ford birth cohort study. I mean, there's so many studies, institutions he could have said, but he doesn't. He just says people's names. He talks about, Dr. Merrick and Jay Bhattacharya, and then he just set Bernie up to go, oh, you got like two friends of yours, and we got the whole scientific community behind us. So I don't care about your two stupid doctor friends. And so that's that. So again, RFK Jr. is not coming for the real battle here, and he's not prepared. And it makes me feel like, did he walk into this as yet another distraction where we're not talking about what you said, Garland, up front, which we should all be talking about mRNA? Is this a distraction? So we're back to the discussion about should RFK Jr. keep his job or not? And then we're only talking about, I guess there's this whole thing about Tylenol. We need to look at Tylenol. We need to look at he's got an autism report coming out, which is good, but we're not talking about mRNA. And I think that might be by design. Another interesting timing of this is while he's getting grilled by Bernie and Liz Warren, at the exact same time, I mean, you can't make this stuff up, Garland. At the exact same time, you have Trump sitting in a room with Bill Gates, one of the biggest corrupted, as we know, corrupted person in pharma who has no business giving us medical advice, let alone his ties to Jeffrey Epstein, sitting there talking about the next innovation of how we're going to have, everyone's going to have their own AI doctor telling you what to do and what to put in your body, and just promoting mRNA at the exact same time. So if you're big in the Maha movement and you think that we're getting closer to a win, I got news for you. There's something preventing us from doing it. And it seems like we're still going into these circles, circle after circle, and getting these little breadcrumb wins here and there. But we're never getting to go to the actual battle, which is getting mRNA off the shelves for good, which I don't know if that's going to happen.
Exactly. Because what we need, and I've said this when it comes to the jab, look, the big thing we need is data. From the very beginning, what we said, hey, give us the evidence that you have from your, pre-trial, from your trial data. Can't have it. Well, but we'd like to see it. Sure, you can get it in 75 years, and what happens with this and with the jab, we say, we'd like to see data as to how many people are having, whatever it is, whether it's myocarditis, heart attack, strokes, you name it, how many people are having all of this stuff, right? And I'm like, okay, like to see some of that stuff. We need, if you got 100 million people in this country or whatever that took this, we need, evidence. We're starting to get evidence out of other countries. What about, is it possible that there are, more deaths and all of these things, right? We'd like to see. That's all we're asking for. We're asking for evidence and data. And I think you're right. A lot of these discussions that get taken into measles and stuff like that are getting away from, to me, the one thing they don't want to talk about is, we want evidence for what happened with this jab. We want outcomes. We want to know about what happened beforehand, about the pre-trial, about the trial, that the data from the original trials. We want real evidence. We don't want a discussion about what may happen in the future, what might not happen. Look at what was done. What evidence do we have about people? What can we look into to find every detail we can is about the results of that? And they'll talk about anything, but they won't talk about that.
I mean, I mentioned the Cleveland Clinic study. It's so like, it cuts right to the point. It cuts off all the fat and just shows you, forget injuries and, side effects. It's telling it. The study shows us 100% that the more jabs you get, the more you get COVID. I mean, just that. So it's showing that it's not actually effective. We talk about safe and effective. Just do the effective. That's all you got to do. Just show us that it exists. It's real. It's something that you can't pretend doesn't exist. And then we have obviously we have other studies and things that we can look at. But I wish that RFK Jr. could be a little more clear when he delivers this information. Somebody pointed out on our show the other day. It's pretty interesting. I didn't consider this part, because we want RFK Jr. to go into the boxing ring and just throw some, just knock him out. And he can't do that. One thing that might be preventing him, and this is kind of ironic if you think about it, one thing that might be preventing him from doing it is his inability to project his voice. Think about this. We don't talk about this part. We get used to this voice because it's just, you get used to things. We hear him talk. We're not really thinking about it anymore. What happened to his projection? He's got the wavy thing going. Why? So these moments where you want to go in and put Bernie Sanders in his place and put these people in their place, he might not even have the ability to do it. Why is that? Why did that happen? What injury did RFK Jr. have in his lifetime to get him to this place where he can't even project and can't even interrupt and say, no, stop right there and listen to facts that I'm about to tell you? He can't do that. So we forget about that part. So I think it's interesting irony. And yeah, a viewer brought that up on our show the other day. I was like, you know what? We take our voices for granted, right? I can kind of like shout when I need to. I know you can certainly do it. But man, it's that is an interesting ironic element to the equation.
Yeah, one of the things that I found interesting was if you search, let me find it. One of the things I find is that whenever you search for something and Google or whatever shows you everything the opposite, you're on to something. I searched Google Cleveland Clinic study, right? More vaccines, more COVID. And here's what it says. This is the first thing it gives you. Cleveland Clinic study did not show vaccines increase COVID. Vaccine study being misinterpreted. Cleveland study didn't find that taking more COVID. So whenever I search and it starts by telling you the opposite, no, this didn't. As soon as I Cleveland Clinic study, why is it that I get all of these things immediately telling me it didn't show that? All lies. That generally almost always tells me let me see. Let me find it. Now, listen. So that's what it says, right? Listen to this. Cleveland Clinic study did not show This is fact check. Vaccines increase COVID-19 risk, right? Did not show. Let me go down right here to this. The research also noticed that people who got more vaccine doses prior to September 2022, the day the bivalent booster became available at the Cleveland Clinic, had a higher rate of testing positive in the following months than people who had gotten fewer vaccine doses.
Interesting.
Did not show vaccines increase the risk. People who got more vaccines had a higher rate of testing positive. I found that oftentimes in factcheck.org, where it'll say, I saw this thing, this guy sends me this one thing where I said, well, they outlawed the Russian language in Ukraine. No, they didn't. He sends me a link to factcheck.org. I said, did you read it? He said, well, no. I said, read it. It says, the Ukrainian government does no longer allow people to speak Ukrainian in school, in public buildings, in government, blah, blah, blah. And then it says, however, they have made allowances for some language. It says you must speak Ukrainian in the following this. It says, however, they've made they've made allowance for certain languages like English and Spanish and French and this and that. And they go through. They said, however, the exception was not made for Russian. I'm like, so they're literally saying you got to speak Ukrainian. Now you can speak English, Spanish, French, Italian, Bulgarian. You can speak anything, but you can't speak Russian. And I'm like, and you sent me that to show me that they didn't outlaw Russian. And that's specifically what this says. If you read factcheck.org, it always does that.
Yeah.
Now here we got something that says Cleveland Clinic study did not show vaccines increase COVID-19 risk. Second paragraph. Researchers noticed that people who got more vaccine doses had a higher rate of testing positive for the following month than people who got few.
I don't know how they can get away with this. They lie at the top at the headline, and then they have to give you the information later. And they count on people like you mentioned that share this out, and they're only reading the headline. And so
now, how about this? Yeah. But the researchers didn't find that more doses caused a higher rate of infection. Okay, so they found that the more doses you had, the more you were going to test positive. But we're not saying for sure that it was those doses. It could be something completely unrelated. Totally unrelated.
What happened to 100% effective? What happened to if you take this shot, you're not going to get it. You're not going to transfer it. What happened to that? Oh, no one ever said that. Cut to the clip show. Come on, guys. It says
the person doing there said he did not know the explanation for the findings. I don't know why. lie. Now, if you do this, that happens. I'm not saying those two things are connected, and I don't know why really they're going to get more if you get that, but people who smoke 5 packs a day and eat 12 cheeseburgers and drink 5 Cokes and just literally take a pork fat and drink it like a Slurpee every day tend to have more heart attacks and strokes. We're not saying the two are associated in any way, shape, or form. We don't even know why. Who knows? Maybe the pork fat's good for you, but we're just saying you'll probably have our people have more strokes, totally unconnected.
Could you imagine losing your medical license for suggesting maybe we shouldn't mandate cigarettes to people because there might be a relationship to lung cancer? I mean, it's insane, but that's the world we're living in. And these fact-checking operations, these are malicious operations set up to confuse people. I saw this meme, Garland. I saw this meme. It's pretty hilarious. If fact-checking organizations were around during the Revolutionary War, it would say this: the British are coming. The British are coming. Fact check: false. Not all the British showed up. It was only a certain amount of them.
Right.
Don't listen to it. Don't listen to Paul Revere and these are liars. They're bald-faced liars, and they're anti-American.
Yeah, let's not forget. Do you remember a guy named Damar Hamlin?
Mm-hmm.
The guy that I watched
Hamlin,
a great Buffalo Bills game the other day, and he collapsed on the field, and he stopped breathing, and they had to give him whatever, and immediately, no, the COVID vaccine did not cause Damar Hamlin cardiac arrest. Right. Yep. Well, we didn't say that it did. We said, man, you should look into that. Could that possibly be it? And if you remembered, this was what they literally put in the newspaper. We don't know what caused his cardiac arrest, but we know what didn't cause it. And I thought, well, logically speaking, if you don't know what caused it, my deductive logic, as I learned the way it works, means if you don't know what caused it, you can't know, empirically speaking, what didn't cause it. Exactly. And I didn't say it did. Yeah. People were like, well, I'm suspicious. I wonder if it was that. Could we look into that? No, because we know it wasn't that.
Exactly. I'm glad you brought up Damar Hamlin, because I think that was a very significant moment, because that happened on a Monday Night Football game. There was everybody watching it live. I know it affected a lot of people. No one's ever seen anything like that happen on Monday Night Football, let alone any football game we can remember where someone just goes down. They tried to spin it that he got hit really hard. They tried to try to find a moment where that happened, even though he was walking around fine, and then he just dropped down. He was actually dead, technically dead for like 9 minutes before they revived him. And when you went to try and figure out what was going on, if you were a reporter at the time, they wouldn't let you into the hot. It was like this lockdown. You got these like Secret Service everywhere. Like, what the hell do you need all that for? He's an NFL player, but come on, guys. Why do you need all that protection? Anyways, long story short, what you nailed there, Garland, this is what we always go back to. And we tell people, this is not how things work. This is not how science works. You can't have Dr. Fauci come on CBS the very next day and tell everyone that if anyone asks a question about the COVID vax, that they are conspiracy theorists, and we know 100% we know what it's not. And we started doing a segment because of this Damar Hamlin thing, because we said, you can't say we know what it's not when you don't know it, when doctors are baffled and they're looking into it. You can't, those are two things that can't exist at the same time. You can't tell us we know what it's not when you don't know what it is. So way to set the record straight on that one. And we have to keep shouting this, because there's been time and time again since this happened where we see this over and over, the same behavior from these people, the same propaganda machine, the same trying to silence our questions. We're just asking questions. Come on.
Let me ask you about something that happened. I'm sure you're familiar with it. The attempt to assassinate the Hamas. You familiar with that? The Hamas leaders in Qatar?
Yeah, we saw that go down yesterday. Yes.
Well, and I've been doing it, and I put 3 things together. Number 1, Donald Trump on Sunday and Monday says, Hamas, I'm giving you, literally his words, this is your last chance. There will be consequences. Take this deal. Hamas says no. Israel then attempts to kill Hamas And the Israeli news says we coordinated with the United States. We had 2 meetings on this day. We had 1 meeting. We worked with the general. They named names. General in charge of CENTCOM, and we did this and that and blah, blah, blah. So now Donald Trump says, like Matt Weinglass, you better do what else tell you. Well, this is your last chance or there's consequences. The next day your car blows up and somebody tries to kill you. And then Donald Trump the next day says, I have no idea. That's terrible. So then Trump comes out and says, we didn't know. They told us at the last minute. And, it's unfortunate. Too bad that happened and blah, blah. Well, wait a minute. You threatened him on Monday. Somebody tried to kill him on Tuesday. And Wednesday, he says, I have no connection. I don't know. And the person who was attempting the murder says, yeah, we work with the U.S. every day. It was great. It was, here's the names of the guys we worked with. It's pathetic what we're looking at here.
Yeah, no, this seems completely coordinated. We've seen this time and time again. Same thing happened when Israel bombs Iran, and you got Trump with the similar, like, hey, they're going a little too far. Hey, I didn't know about it. It's all this is all coordinated to keep MAGAs very confused, and people who champion that Trump is still playing 10D chess here. That's what this is about. It's just going through the motions again. And like you said, just saying that out loud, this is your last chance, and then this happening, you can't take yourself away from that. I mean, you can do it theatrically, but it's not real. And we've seen this so many times, time and time again. And it's not from Trump. We've seen this. This is the same game plan we've seen from the previous administration. You guys remember a one Joe Biden with the Nord Stream pipeline? Something's going to happen. I don't know what, but we'll take care of it. Something's going to happen. Oh, really? And then something happens, and then nothing. So so this is a technique we see used over and over again, and it keeps people thinking that something else is happening when it's not. And we have to stop listening to people reporting on news as if it's news that Trump is quote unquote mad about this. That doesn't mean anything. It's an emotion. He expresses it. Oh, I'm upset. So what? You're upset. It's still happened. You're not going to stop funding Israel. That's not going to stop. So it doesn't mean your tweet doesn't mean anything. You're just getting people, oh, Trump's going to do something about it. No, he's not. He's not. That's the extent. And we see this over and over. Oh, I'm upset about it. Okay, but we're still doing the thing.
This is Sunday.
Yeah.
Trump delivers ultimatum to Hamas, accept the deal and release hostages or pay the consequences.
There you are.
September 7th. September 9th. Somebody tried to kill all the Hamas leaders. Totally and completely unrelated to that. An ultimatum: select it or take the deal or pay the consequences. And then the next day, Trump, oh, geez, I had no idea. How did that happen? What a weird, odd thing. Somebody tried to kill these guys that I said, you better take this or accept the deal. This is your last chance. And people believe that crap.
Yeah. And you see, again, it's the MAGAs they're online right now saying, see all you guys who thought that Trump was controlled by Israel this whole time. You see, he's mad about this. So you guys have been wrong. It's like you just want to shake your head and go, you guys, how you keep falling for this? This was all coordinated. This is all theatrics, and it's just the same thing over and over. We're funding this whole thing. Trump says something, Israel does something else, but does the thing that he said, but then he's like, oh, I had nothing to do with that. Of course you had something to do with that. We're funding this genocide. We're funding every military action that Israel takes, every terrorist activity that Israel takes. We're funding every single one of them. So this idea that you can tweet out, I'm upset about this, that's not anything. That's nothing. When are Trump supporters gonna wake up and say this is a game we've been had? And you got Pete Hegseth being this war secretary of war. At the same time, you want this guy to get the Nobel Peace Prize, and you're going around talking about secretary of war. Like you guys have got to understand that this administration is captured. Every administration has been captured. This one is more obvious than we've ever seen before. So I don't know what it's going to take for enough people to understand that this whole thing it's all theater. And again, here's another war crime caused by Israel, another crime against humanity.
Before we go, last thing, your thoughts on Venezuela and the alleged attack on a drug boat. Now, as I said, I don't even know that it happened. Initially, Venezuela says, well, it was an AI video. I haven't seen the names of people. If it was a fishing boat. There ain't no way in heck that, come on, you had a boat that probably had 100 to 150-mile cruising range at the max, and we're supposed to believe they came 1,000 miles, they were heading 1,000 miles to the United States, and they decided that the route they wanted to take was right through an armada of U.S. ships. I'm supposed to be that stupid, but they were going to somehow get there and run out of gas 1/10 of the way. The whole thing is preposterous. Your thoughts on the whole threatening Venezuela thing now?
Well, there's no paper trail on this at all. You're gonna go brag about killing 11 terrorists, 11 drugs cartel people and you got them good. And again, half of Trump's base is like celebrating this. There's no paper trail. We don't know. We don't have names. We don't have any. There's nothing there. And now, like you said about this AI claim, I don't know if it's AI or not. I've seen the video. It could very well be an actual a bombing of an actual ship, but just making up 11 people that there's no paper trail about. And what is this about? Let's take it for face value. Let's say that Trump is saying, yeah, we got him. Who are you to just go do this? You're not bringing people to justice. You're not putting them to a court system. We see this whole war on terror. We see this time and time again. And for people, again, if you figured out Israel, good for you. If you figured out our horrible behavior in the Middle East, all the people we've murdered, all the illegal wars, all of the takedowns, all of the coups, all of the swapping out elected leaders with our own people we put in place. If you have seen that and you get that, but you think Venezuela is an exception because you were told by your president that we have to stop the drug cartel of a unofficial President Maduro, then you do not see the full picture. For some reason, there's people that think that this is legit. It is all. I agree with you, Garland, that this is not. This is a contrived event. It's not real. But even if it was, there would be nothing justified about it. So there's no way you can maneuver through this and think that this is okay, that you can do this to Venezuela. Why are we even doing this in Venezuela? Let's remind people why. Why? The oil. Come on, people, wake up, understand that. That's what this is about. You want to stop a drug cartel? Why don't we go to the CIA and figure out how many drug cartels the CIA is funding and is responsible for? But no, we're going to blame Venezuela for all of our problems on the border, right? We're going to blame all these other Latin American countries for our problems on the border. We know it's imperialism. We know it's Western imperialism, and it has to stop.
And here's Venezuela's crime. We're looking at the crime they've done against the United States. Venezuela has the world's most oil. Why doesn't it earn more from exports? The world's largest proven oil reserves, more than 5 times more than the United States. And I'm supposed to believe, you wouldn't, if you were going after cocaine, you wouldn't go to Colombia, because certainly there's no cocaine coming out of that. Peru, the Andes Mountains covered with coca plants growing wild, certainly wouldn't need to address any cocaine coming out of Peru. No, where would you go? You would go straight to the country that has 5 times the proven oil reserves of the United States. That's where you would go and say, we've got to bring them some democracy, and we've got to make sure that they are able to, we free the people so they can be democratic, and that oil can get some oil freedom.
Yeah. No, this is, look, they say this out loud. If you actually, there's this U.S. Army general. Her name is Laura Richardson. And you guys look her up, General Laura Richardson, and she says the strategy out loud, like with total confidence, like it's totally, it's like there's nothing to hide. She talks about why our interests are so much in Venezuela, why our interests are in. She actually talks about, it's called the lithium triangle. That's between Argentina, Bolivia, Chile. Talks about how there's lithium there. That Venezuela is not just rich in oil, but gold. And so she says these resources are a national security interest to the U.S., to our dominance. She talks about it. So we're not talking about drug cartels and spreading democracy. We're talking about resources that we want to steal. That's it.
Hold on 1 second. I will. Give me 1 second. I've got her right here.
Yeah.
Let me see. Give me a second. People have any questions, about old Laura Richardson.
She'll tell you.
Okay, this is exactly. Share screen. There we go. Ready?
Yep.
Oh, come on now. That's doing all of this stuff. Doesn't want us to hear it, I guess. It was working a second ago.
You know what? I might be able to bring it up. I have a file I can maybe upload. Is that
okay?
Or you want to try it again? Let's see.
Let me read.
And then the power of just getting people together. Just yesterday, I had a Zoom call with the U.S. ambassadors from Argentina and Chile, and then also the strategy officer from Levant, and then also the VP for global operations from Albemarle for lithium, to talk about the lithium triangle in Argentina, Bolivia, and Chile, and the companies, how they're doing, and what they see in terms of challenges and things like that in the lithium business, and then the aggressiveness or the influence and coercion from the PRC. And so the ability to get those groups together to leverage, what's really happening on the ground and how can we help, and who else can we bring to the table to help us figure this problem out and box out our adversaries, box out our competitors by teaming together with each other and others.
So she sits there and tells you the United States, it's exactly what's the guy's name who wrote War is a Racket? It's exactly what he says. We have a military leader, general, whatever, 5-star general in charge of, quote, Southcom, South America. And what is she saying? Are we doing something to defend the United States from somebody that's going to attack us, from some military attack? What is she saying? We're figuring out how to box out our competitors. Well, wait a minute. Whose competitors? Competitors of U.S. corporations.
Yep.
So what you're telling me is that the military of the U.S. military is acting on Smedley Butler. That the U.S. military is acting to box out competitors of U.S. corporations. The American people are paying $1 trillion a year for the U.S. military to say there's lithium there. Our corporations want it, and we got to box out everybody so that our corporations can make money.
Yeah, she's saying it right out loud. Like, this makes total sense. This is what by the way, this is what my job is. I'm not a politician. I'm a general. This is my job. So she's very blunt about it. And in that same interview, there's another part where she mentions Venezuela, and she talks about the gold and the oil and how this is our national security interest, that we have to go do this. And like she said there, box out our competitors. This is the strategy. There's no fine tuning it. There's no razzle dazzle to it. We're not talking about stopping drug cartels. We're not talking about saving democracy. We're just talking about stealing resources so we can stay the superior dominant force in the planet. But we can't do that forever. It's not sustainable to keep doing this. But I think everybody knows that. So they're gonna go down kicking and screaming and do as much of this as possible. And that's why we're seeing all this happening in Venezuela right now. At the same time, what are we doing? What are we doing militarily? We're overextending, and that's how empires fall. They overextend militarily while they deprive their own people of a well-being, of a decent life, and that's how we see empires fall. It happens all the time. We're the next ones up.
Matt Weinglass, tell everybody where they can find you and follow your good works.
Absolutely. The Homeless Left, that's our channel on Rumble, and we're also on YouTube. We had to start a new channel on YouTube because they terminated our last one for having conversations. I guess they were too dangerous, Garland. But our new channel it's called THL Presents. It's the same show, The Homeless Left. We're on Tuesdays and Thursdays afternoons. Catch us twice a week. Yeah.
All right, Matt Weinglass, everybody.
Awesome.
And you've done good work. Let's check with Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, what do you think of the show today? Darn, Bernie didn't like the show. Thanks a lot, everybody. Follow Matt Weinglass at THL Presents right here on YouTube. And of course, The Homeless Left on Rumble. And you can share this on all your social media platforms. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great day.